There we go.
Good evening, I'm Carol Fraser and welcome to Carol's Organic Kitchen. I'm a plant-based nutritionist and I support people who suffer with eczema. And one of the things I do, I support people on an eczema group, and tonight I'm going to be cooking a very simple favourite of chickpea curry with bulgur wheat rice with a side of radish slaw with cucumber. And what I do is, because I cook without some of the foods that actually trigger flare-ups with eczema sufferers, I also show alternatives that you can cook with that have less starch, sugars, refined foods and processed, and tend to cook largely with whole foods. So let's start with our bulgur wheat rice. And I have about 500 grams of bulgur wheat rice right here. I'm just going to put a bit of heat under my pan. And all I'm doing is just warming up the pan, because what I like to do is just toast the bulgur wheat before I actually add any water or herbs or seasoning, because it gives a beautiful taste to the bulgur wheat. It gives a nice toasted flavour. Then when you cook it plain, it gives a lovely, more roasted type flavour. And as it's heating and it's roasting a little bit, you'll get the aroma of the toasted bulgur wheat. So you'll know when it's ready, just about ready, to start adding in your water, a little salt and pepper, and any herbs you wish to add in there as well. Now, my bulgur wheat actually has a bit of vermicelli in it, but I normally get the plain bulgur wheat, but I wasn't able to find it on the shelves. And you can get bulgur wheat really from any store these days if you look for it, or Polish stores, they have bulgur wheat on their shelves. I got this from my local Polish store. So all I'm doing is just waiting for that to pan roast a little bit, and once I start to get that beautiful kind of toasted aroma, that's when I know it's then time to add all the other ingredients. But just before I do, I'm going to put in my dried basil herbs, which I like to add to my bulgur wheat. You can put in as much or as little as you like. I've put in just under a tablespoon. It just adds to the overall flavour. Be careful not to burn your bulgur wheat. Just be patient with it. And as soon as you start to get that lovely toasted aroma, we can start putting our liquids in. I'm just going to give it a little bit of seasoning. I'm going to add in a touch of salt. And I use cayenne pepper, just a touch, just to season. So I've got my dried basil herbs in there. You can choose to use whatever herbs you wish with your bulgur wheat. It's up to you. And we've got our sea salt. I always use sea salt in my cooking for the minerals. There's other types of table salt tend to have added sodium, and the sea salt contains more of its own minerals. So as I say, just be a little bit patient with it. Keep moving it around because you don't want to burn your bulgur wheat either. And I'm just getting that lovely scent now of toasted bulgur. This is what I do with mine. You can choose to just, you know, add your herbs, seasoning, and then water. But I find it tastes a lot better this way. Just add something extra to the flavour. Right, well, I think that's toasted enough. It smells absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to turn that down quickly to a medium heat. And next I'm going to add the water. And it's just like cooking rice. Just the same as if you were cooking your normal rice. You see that bubbling a little bit because the pan's quite hot. So all we're doing is putting in enough water to just cover the top of your bulgur wheat. And that's it. Just enough. In fact, I could add a little bit more. Some people do a little test where they measure the water just at the first line of your finger. My mother used to teach me that, and I seem to make perfect rice doing it that way all the time, but it's hot, so I'm not going to dip my finger in now. But if the water's up to about that line of your finger, you're good to go. Now for me, I like to add in coconut milk. Now this is about 200 ml. Now some people can't use coconut milk because of certain allergies to tree nuts. So that's optional. That's completely optional. It's just my choice. And it's also a kind of traditional way of how in the Caribbean we cook what we call our rice and peas. I'm just going to give that a stir. I'm going to bring it up to a slow boil. So we'll just wait for that to simmer a little bit, come up to a little bit of a boil, and then I'm going to turn that right down. I'm just going to grab a pan lid. Because once it's come up to a boil, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer and allow that to cook. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Whilst that is coming to a boil, I'm going to actually shift it over to another gas ring so I can start cooking the curry. Got the wrong gas ring. Right, so I'm going to shift that over. It's not quite hot yet, so I'm using my hands. I'm going to wait for that to come up to a boil. Meantime, I'm going to turn this down to medium heat. I'm going to pop this pan over here and start cooking my chickpea curry. Now, some people don't cook with oils. It's entirely up to you. You don't have to use oil in your cooking, but you can use a little bit of water and then add in your onions when you're sauteing, but I'm just going to add a little bit of oil. Let that heat up somewhat before adding my chopped onion. And I tend to use chopped red onion purely because it's a little less acidic than the white onion, and we want to keep the body in balance. Our body has its own natural pH level, and the more acidic our body becomes, the more prone we are to illness. So we want to keep it as alkaline as possible. So I tend to use red onion in my cooking. Now this is coming up somewhat to a boil. Just going to give it a little stir as it's... See, there's not too much liquid in there. Just enough to cover the grain. And that will probably take at least, 15 minutes to cook. So I'm just going to turn that down because it's already come up to a kind of slow boil, to medium heat. I'm going to pop the pan on there. You can see it's slowly bubbling. You just want it at a gentle bubble. Okay, and I'm going to put the pan on there. The oil is warmed up nicely. So I'm going to add in my onion. You can use about 2 medium onions. I'm going to use about 400 grams of chickpea. I like a lot of onion because I find the onion gives it a bit more thickness to the curry. I've got quite a lot there. I won't use all of it. So I'm gonna let that saute, and I have on the side just a clove of garlic. I'm just going to crush that. It's quite a strong garlic clove. This is the garlic that I use. I was very fortunate to find a garlic, a hand of garlic that's got the lovely tinge to it, reddish tinge, and it's still got some of its roots attached as well. And that's going to have a little bit more nutrition than your average garlic. If you can find it like this, it's absolutely delicious and it's a lot more potent. While that's now just coming to kind of simmer, as it were. Now I'm going to push that aside a little bit, and I'm going to put in my garlic clove. Put it in there. I'm going to put in, add to my pan, a pinch of cumin seed. Pinch it, squeeze it, so you let out the flavour of the seed itself. You can just get that lovely aroma as well as it hits the pan. And next, I like to cook with a bit of fennel, because fennel is really good for the digestive system. I'm just going to pinch it just to release its oils. That's just a pinch of fennel there. And then just let that all saute together. You can use less onion. I tend to like a lot of onion. And as I say, it makes it nice and thick for the curry. And this is just a basic recipe. You could add in all kinds of spices. I've got a right, well, whilst that's sauteing a bit, I just want to show you the radish that I have here. I'm going to be doing a radish and cucumber slaw, and I've still got the leaves intact. If you can find your radish like this, it's going to be a lot more nutritional. And don't throw away the leaves. Usually the leaves are quite coarse, so it's not great to put in salads. but you can chop it and use it as a lovely pesto. It's got the really lovely consistency for pesto. So, you know, reserve your greens. Don't just throw them in the bin. You want to get the ultimate amount of nutrition. Right, that's coming along nicely. We just want that to go translucent. I'm just going to check my pan for the bulgur wheat. Turn that down slightly. I'm just going to turn it a little. I think I could do just a little bit more. A little bit more moisture to that. I'm going to add just a touch more water. I'm making a big pan tonight because I'm cooking for my family. Yeah, it should be a little bit more. Don't want it sticking to the bottom. But once you put in enough water, you don't really have to play around with the bulgur wheat much. So we'll just let that steam. Check the heat. Right, now, the next thing I'm going to do is add in my spices. Just make a little well there. And I'm going to put in just about 2 dessert spoons of my spices. And what we want to do is pan roast the spices. So you're bringing out the flavors of your curry. And some people like to grind their own curry. I tend to do that, or you can buy prepared curry as well. And add in your turmeric if it doesn't already have turmeric. But what we don't want to do is overcook your spices at all. So I'm going to turn that down. Turn that right down. Just until you can smell it. Oh, it's gorgeous. Right. So here are my cooked chickpeas. I've got approximately 400 grams. You can buy the tin chickpeas. I tend to cook my own fresh. And I cook it down with a bit of bay leaf. Look, the bay leaf's going in there. I'm just going to leave the bay leaf in it. So scoop out the chickpeas. The bay leaf just gives a nice flavour to the water. And we're going to use the same chickpea water to add to our curry. I'm not going to waste it. I've got quite a lot of water here. And in fact, what I could have done is use some of the water from this chickpea curry stew here, from where I've cooked the chickpeas, and added it to the bulgur wheat. But I'm going to add it, most of it, to my chickpea curry. Just a very quick and basic recipe. Oops, lost one of my leaves there. I'm going to turn that up a little bit. Mix that in. Let's have a check over here. Oh, that's there you go. I'm just showing it to you, but you can just literally leave the lid on and let it do its own thing. Just coat the chickpeas with the curry and your onions. Let's add in just a little touch of salt, sea salt again. I like to add a little bit of heat behind my curry, so I've added in a bit of cayenne pepper. That's optional. Just give it a bit of a stir. Coat your chickpeas nicely. And over here, I've chopped some fresh spinach. I'm going to use all my greens. That's actually a whole bunch. This is the amount of spinach that I've used. It's a nice wild spinach, and I got that from my local Arabic store. I always like to add in greens in my cooking, so I'm getting the phytonutrients and the calcium. And again, greens are alkaline in nature, so it helps with balancing the body's natural alkalinity. And spinach is such an easy type of green to use. It literally wilts. You don't have to overcook it. Just coat that all together. Some people may choose to add coconut in their chickpea curry as well. I'm just going to be using the actual water from my cooked chickpeas right here in a moment. Right, I'm going to start adding the water from my chickpeas. Let's just give the water a stir a bit. Pour that in. You don't need a lot. In fact, I could have used less, but you know, I've added in quite a lot of onions, so as it reduces, it will thicken. So all we're looking to do right now is just to reduce the water a little, because the chickpeas are already cooked. We've roasted the spices, sauteed the onions, and added in our seasoning, and just topped it with our fresh spinach. So I'm just going to let that come up to a slow rolling boil. As that's simmering down a bit, I'm going to start putting together my radish slaw with cucumber. So I'm going to come over here so I can show you more clearly. I've got my bowl ready. I'm going to put in my cucumber. This is just finely diced cucumber. That's all that is. Just finely chopped. And it's just a nice fresh accompaniment with your finished dish. And then I'm going to put in my chopped radish. In fact, I grated this radish. And you can add in as much radish and as much cucumber as you like. I put in more cucumber than radish. And that's all you do. Just simply give it a toss. Just mix it like that. Look at the lovely colours. I love to eat the rainbow. And to finish that, I'm going to use a little bit of, I've got a little bit of olive oil there.
going to use a squeeze of lime. Give that a little mix. I'm going to get a pinch of salt. Add a little pinch of salt. Give it another little mix. Oh, it smells so fresh. It's lovely. Now, this is optional as well. It's entirely up to you, but you can also add in a pinch of basil or marjoram or any type of dried herb you wish to make just a simple herb dressing. That's literally it. I'm going to pour that in there. Wasting nothing. Give it another little toss. There you go. And that's my radish and cucumber slaw. If you like mayonnaise, there is a dairy-free mayonnaise that you can quite simply make from following a dairy-free recipe. There's also dairy-free options now in the superstore. But check the ingredients, check for the ingredients, especially if you have any food sensitivities or allergies. Right, so let me just get my plate and then I'm going to start. Start putting it together. I've just got a romaine lettuce boat. And all I'm going to do is just fill it with my radish and cucumber slaw. I've got quite a lot there. I love my salad. Let's go back to the pan, see what's going on here. Let me just stir this a little bit as it's reducing. I want this to thicken up. Let's have a look and see what's going on with our bulgur wheat. They're nicely steamed. Let's have a look. Let me get a fork. I'm just going to pick it a little bit. Now that looks great. That is done. It's very quick and easy to do bulgur wheat. Very quick and easy indeed. And it's a great alternative to rice, particularly white rice, because it contains a lot of starch. And the problem with starch is with eczema, we want to avoid sugar, and starch breaks down in the body as a sugar. So something like bulgur wheat rice is a great alternative. That's nicely done. That's lovely and fluffy, as you can see. Look, beautifully cooked and done in minutes. Especially, you know, when you're in a hurry, you get home from work, you're cooking for the family, you want something comforting yet healthy, anti-inflammatory, not cooking with so much with your conventional foods. That's not going to cause you flares. And we want to cook with more alkaline foods, which is our whole foods. That's our fresh greens, chickpeas. Now that's thickening up quite nicely. As you can see, look, it's reduced to a nice, thicker curry consistency. Right, so I'm going to start plating this up. Let me just grab my plate, bring it over here. I don't know about you, but I like generous portions. So bulgur wheat. I'm going to turn this the curry off over here. And I'm going to add it to my plate with my spinach that's in there. You've got all those lovely colours together. You use a little bit of the gravy, the curry sauce. And that is it. Voila. Lovely, wholesome, comforting, filling, warm dish for the colder season. Thank you very much for watching. Keep tuned, like, subscribe, follow, because we're going to be giving you more cooking demonstrations. We're going to be producing more lives. So we're going to give you information about how you can manage eczema, the type of allergy-free, foods that don't flare your eczema, that's going to be anti-inflammatory as well. And we're going to try and introduce some live chats. And what we're doing as well is a documentative series called Eczema Uncovered. You may have already seen some of the live stories we've been doing with people who are on our group, our eczema skincare group. And there we have discussions, questions. We'll be putting lives on there. I'll be putting nutritional information as well. So you can get lots and lots of benefits, and you can ask questions as well. So keep tuned. And if you want to join our Facebook group, we're going to put it in the description. Thank you very much. Take care. Good night.